Welcome to the deep dive. You're here, I'm guessing, because you're interested in optimizing your sleep. And let's be real, you probably want to get smart about it quickly without, drowning in research papers for hours on end.
Right. It's about efficiency, isn't it? Finding what works.
Exactly. So today, we're trying to cut through some of that noise. We're exploring a pretty fascinating, maybe even transformative approach to sleep. Frequency technology.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
A lot of people are searching for better ways to sleep, ways that actually, well, work.
Right.
So our mission today is really to dig into whether this kind of tech offers a genuine path to better rest. We want to see if it's backed by, actual science and real experiences, not just the usual sleep tips.
Precisely. We're doing a deep dive into frequency technology, and specifically this thing called Qi Coil. Now, to get a good picture, we looked at a few different things.
Right.
We've got scientific articles, Journal of Sleep Medicine, neuroscience and biobehavioral reviews, sleep science, even the quantum biology journal.
Some heavy hitters there.
Yeah. And we also looked at info straight from the source, the Qi Coil website. That's quillfstore.com. And what I think is pretty cool, we actually ran our own little personal experiment for 2 weeks.
Oh, interesting. Hands-on.
Yeah. So the main goal here is to understand the science, what's supposedly happening, and what people say is happening with their sleep using this tech. And crucially, doing it without reaching for pills.
Yeah, getting to the core of it. Is it scientifically plausible? Does it seem to actually help people get better sleep quality? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty science, maybe we should just quickly touch on our own sleep struggles before we even heard about Qi Coil, just to set the scene.
Sure, yeah. Makes it relatable.
For me, it was that classic thing, desperately wanting to sleep, needing sleep, but my brain just wouldn't shut off. Felt like a constant low-level hum,
Oh, I know that feeling. Tossing, turning.
Exactly. And then waking up feeling like you didn't actually rest at all, just sort of wrestled with the pillow all night.
Yeah, I can relate. Mine was maybe more about inconsistency. Some nights, boom, out like a light.
Lucky you. Sometimes.
Sometimes. Other nights, my mind's just racing, like replaying conversations, making lists, just random noise.
Ugh, the worst.
And that inconsistency is super frustrating when you need to be, functional and focused the next day. So yeah, hopefully sharing that gives a bit of context for why we'd even look into something like this.
Definitely. Okay, so let's get into the science, the basics of sleep itself. We looked at that Journal of Sleep Medicine article, and it talked about sleep architecture. What are the key things people need to grasp about how sleep actually, works?
Right. So sleep isn't just flicking an off switch. It's way more complex. Think of it as cycles, right, with different stages within each cycle.
Okay.
And these stages are defined by different brainwave patterns. You cycle through non-REM sleep, that includes lighter sleep, and that really important deep, slow wave sleep. That's the super restorative stuff.
Gotcha. Deep sleep is good.
Very good. And then there's REM sleep. That's where most dreaming happens, and it's crucial for, cognitive stuff, processing information, memory consolidation.
Right.
And these cycles, non-REM, then REM, they usually repeat every, say, 90 minutes or so all night long.
90 minutes, okay.
So the key thing here is if you want to truly enhance sleep, you really want to maximize the time spent in those deep restorative stages.
Makes total sense. More deep sleep is the goal. Okay, so that's where this whole frequency idea comes in. The Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews article mentions something called Brainwave Entrainment. Can you break that down for us, non-neuroscientists? What is that?
Yeah, it sounds fancy, but the concept is actually pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
Think of your brainwaves as just the electrical rhythm of your brain, right? Humming along.
Okay.
Brainwave entrainment is this really interesting phenomenon where those natural rhythms can actually be influenced or sort of nudged by external rhythmic things.
Like what?
Could be sound, like binaural beats or flashing lights, or even potentially electromagnetic fields. Your brain kind of has this natural tendency to sync up its own dominant rhythm to the rhythm of these external signals.
So it follows the beat.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. So if you expose the brain to a specific frequency, say one associated with relaxation or deep sleep, the idea is that your brain waves might start to naturally drift towards that frequency.
Okay, I think I get it.
The potential here, which is exciting, is that by choosing the right frequencies, you might be able to gently guide the brain into those more restful states, like tuning an instrument maybe. An external frequency helps your brain find that more harmonious, sleep-friendly state.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now, here's where it gets maybe a little more out there. This ties into quantum frequencies. The Quantum Biology Journal touched on this.
Yeah, yeah.
And Qi Coil, just reminding everyone it's pronounced Qi, they talk about using these. How do quantum frequencies supposedly fit into influencing our bodies when we're trying to rest?
Yeah, this is definitely a more subtle layer and maybe more speculative in some ways. The Quantum Biology Journal looks at how quantum mechanics principles, stuff usually dealing with the very, very small, might actually play a role in biological systems, which is kind of mind-bending.
Definitely.
So in the context of sleep and this frequency tech, the idea is that maybe these really low-level quantum fields could interact with our body's own natural bioelectromagnetic fields, like at a really fundamental level.
How would that help sleep?
Well, the thought is it could influence things like how cells communicate or maybe just nudge our overall physiological state towards relaxation and better sleep regulation. It's still an active area of research for sure.
So less direct, more like a subtle influence.
Exactly. Think less like a big electrical jolt and more like tiny energetic nudges that kind of resonate with our natural biological rhythms, encouraging the brain and body towards rest.
Interesting. Okay, so we have brainwave entrainment, maybe these quantum frequencies. What else? The YouTube tags for this stuff often mention PEMF.
Right, pulsed electromagnetic fields.
Yes. And the sleep science meta-analysis we looked at actually studied PEMF and sleep quality. So how does PEMF fit in? And how might it connect to Qi Coil?
Okay, so PEMF is a bit more established in some ways. That sleep science meta-analysis suggests that PEMF can have positive effects on sleep quality in different situations.
Okay.
PEMF basically involves using electromagnetic fields, but their pulse turned on and off at specific frequencies and strengths. These fields can go into the body and interact with cells and tissues.
Right.
Now, that analysis didn't specifically look at Qi Coil itself, but the fact that PEMF for sleep shows up in their marketing materials, their tags, strongly suggests there's a link.
So Qi Coil might be using TEMF to deliver its frequencies.
It seems very plausible.
Yeah.
They might talk about quantum frequencies, which sounds cool and maybe describes the subtle end effect they're aiming for, but the actual delivery mechanism could very well be PEMF technology. That's how they're getting those frequencies to the body.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're seeing how these different ideas, entrainment, maybe quantum effects, PEMF could potentially come together. Let's zoom in on the Qi Coil tech itself now. The QLifeStore.com website talks about their specific sleep protocols and research. What did you see there? How does it connect back to the science?
Well, what's interesting is how they seem to be trying to translate these, fairly complex scientific ideas into something people can actually use easily.
Right, practical application.
Exactly. Their site lists specific frequency programs like named programs for relaxation or for deeper sleep or even for dreaming.
Okay.
And they often mention the brainwave frequencies linked to those states, like delta for deep sleep, theta for drowsiness or light sleep. And they propose that their device helps guide your brain towards those specific frequencies.
Using PEMF, potentially.
Potentially using PEMF, yes. And the research they present on their site usually involves tracking user sleep, maybe with wearables, maybe self-reported, and collecting subjective feedback to show that their protocols seem to be effective for users.
So they're trying to link their specific programs to outcomes.
Right. It's taking the general science of entrainment and PEMF and applying it in a very targeted way, claiming it improves sleep based on their user data.
Okay. Which leads us perfectly into our own little experiment, our 2-week personal trial with the Qi Coil.
Moment of truth.
Ish.
Yeah. Well, I went into it, gotta say, pretty skeptical. You know me.
Healthy skepticism is good.
But the results were, well, they were interesting, worth talking about. I started tracking my sleep really carefully with my wearable, looking at the time spent in different stages, deep, REM, light before we started, and then during the 2 weeks we consistently used the Qi Coil at night. What did our combined data kind of show?
What we both saw, looking at the trends, was a noticeable increase in the average time spent in deep sleep during those 2 weeks with the Qi Coil running.
Yeah, that was the main thing for me too.
Obviously, sleep varies night to night.
Yeah.
That's normal. You have good nights, bad nights.
But the overall average duration of deep sleep definitely showed an upward tick compared to our baseline week before we started.
Which is significant, right? Because we said deep sleep is the really good stuff.
Exactly. That's the stage most linked to physical restoration, feeling genuinely refreshed, cellular repair, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So seeing an increase there was, well, pretty compelling.
Yeah, honestly, that increase in deep sleep was the biggest surprise for me and the most welcome one. I actually felt more rested during the day and more alert, which is the whole point, isn't it?
That's the ultimate test, absolutely. How you feel and function.
Now, we also got a chance to compare notes, indirectly at least, with the Qi Resonance sound bed. Different tech, same company group.
Right, a different delivery system.
Can you talk about the differences in the reported experiences? Qi Coil versus the sound bed.
Yeah, sure. So both use frequencies, aiming for well-being, but the experience is quite different. The sound bed, it's literally a bed that vibrates with sound frequencies. People often describe that as much more immediately immersive, like a deep physical relaxation washes over you, a very soothing sound bath feeling.
Okay, more of an immediate sensory thing.
Exactly. The Qi Coil, being this smaller portable device, offers way more flexibility. You can use it by the bed, on a desk, wherever.
Right.
It's less all-encompassing physically.
Right.
In terms of sleep results, both seemed positive based on anecdotes we gathered alongside our trial. But some people felt the Qi Coil was maybe particularly good at boosting that deep sleep state over the longer haul, like our 2-week test suggested.
Whereas the sound bed might be more about immediate relaxation, maybe helping you drift off easier.
That seemed to be a common theme, yeah. Sound bed for immediate calming, Qi Coil potentially for enhancing the quality, the depth of sleep once you're out. But again, individual experiences vary.
Okay, so thinking about that hypothetical YouTube title, Deep Sleep Without Pills, based on everything the science we looked at, our own little experiment, does it seem plausible that this kind of frequency tech could be a viable way for some folks to get deeper sleep without medication?
I'd say, based on what we've seen, it definitely holds potential.
Yes.
Yes. The combination of plausible scientific mechanisms like entrainment and PEMF, plus the positive reported outcomes, including our own experience with increased deep sleep. It suggests that frequency technology like Qi Coil could positively influence sleep patterns for some people.
Yep.
And importantly, without needing pharmaceuticals.
But with caveats, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial to stress. Individual results will vary wildly. And this is not a replacement for medical advice or treatment if someone has a serious underlying sleep disorder or medical condition that needs proper diagnosis.
Of course.
But for people just looking for natural ways to kind of optimize or enhance their existing sleep quality, this technology seems like something worth looking into further, definitely.
And that really hits on the appeal, doesn't it? The natural aspect. So many people are cautious about sleep meds, the side effects, dependency.
Exactly.
This feels like it's trying to work with the body's natural rhythms rather than overriding them.
Precisely. It's framed as supporting the body's own ability to regulate sleep, just gently guiding the brain towards those more beneficial sleep frequencies rather than, chemically inducing sleep. It's a different philosophy.
Now, if people listening are intrigued by this, maybe want to try it out in a more structured way, it's worth noting there are actually Qi Life Centers that offer sleep optimization programs, right?
That's right. Those centers offer a place where you can experience the technology, maybe the coils, maybe the beds, often with practitioners who can guide you and help tailor things. It's a more supported environment for exploring it.
A more in-depth option, yeah.
Definitely. For someone who wants more guidance than just buying a device online.
And interestingly, just as a side note from our research, it seems like there might be a business opportunity here too.
How so?
Well, for wellness practitioners, coaches, therapists, alternative health folks who work with clients struggling with sleep, which is so many people,
Huge numbers, yeah.
focusing on or integrating these kinds of frequency-based sleep solutions could be a really interesting niche to develop.
That makes sense. Given how common sleep issues are and the growing interest in both natural and tech-based wellness solutions, yeah, offering something like this could be a valuable service for practitioners looking to help their clients in a novel way.
Definitely seems timely. And one last practical point, the setup. For using something like the Qi Coil for sleep, it doesn't seem overly complicated, does it? It's not like building a lab in your bedroom.
No, not at all. Based on our experience and what the company shows, it seems pretty straightforward. Usually it's just placing the coil device near your bed, maybe plugging it in or making sure it's charged, and then running the sleep program you want from an app on your phone or tablet.
So a relatively simple integration into a bedtime routine.
Yeah, the ease of use is definitely a plus. Makes it more accessible for the average person to actually try consistently.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Let's consolidate the main points from this deep dive. We've explored frequency technology, focusing on Qi Coil as a potential way to improve sleep.
Right.
We looked at the science, things like brainwave entrainment, PEMF, even a touch of quantum biology to understand how it might work by influencing our brain's natural rhythms.
And we discussed the reported results, including our own anecdotal experience, suggesting it can lead to positive outcomes, particularly that increase in deep sleep without needing medication.
Yeah, so the key insight seems to be that frequency tech presents this, well, intriguing possibility for natural sleep enhancement. The idea you can nudge brainwaves towards more restorative states, it's compelling.
It is. Supported by some plausible science and positive user reports, it makes this whole area definitely one to keep an eye on.
So here's the final thought I want to leave everyone with, something to chew on. Could these biofrequencies, this kind of tech, actually be a big part of the future of personalized sleep solutions?
Hmm. Interesting question.
And thinking about that, what other questions does this deep dive raise for you about this whole intersection of technology, our biology, and our overall well-being? It's evolving so fast.
It really is. Lots to think about.
Definitely. I encourage everyone listening to consider what this might mean for their own sleep, their own health journey. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.